Hey, what's up? Welcome to another live edition of The Mandatory. Lots to recap because a lot went down this weekend with, of course, Ryan Garcia shocking the world and upsetting Devin Haney. What a fight that was. We're going to get into all your comments as well. Interactive show. Before we get into all of that, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, follow us on our social media channels. We're at The Mandatory TKO. And, Brian, coming into this fight, Ryan was a huge underdog, and a lot of people, like, we were both questioning what was going on with him mentally. His behavior was erratic during the weigh-in. He didn't make weight. He was 3.5 pounds over. He drank a beer while he was getting weighed. There was so much going on, but then we get into the ring and Ryan Garcia's focus. Clearly, he was trolling us. But let's get into it all. Your thoughts leading into the fight and then what we saw.
Trolling us. There's a lot of different things. Jesus, we're gonna get to you in a second because you're lying. Now you're just straight up lying. Please feel free to comment. We are gonna put up comments throughout the show. Things of that nature. Ryan Garcia, I'm not gonna go as far as to call him like this sort of mad scientist genius or whatever the case may be. He clearly hoodwinked a lot of people, Devin Haney included, because the outcome I didn't expect was one, Ryan Garcia by decision, but two, I didn't think Devin Haney was going to get rocked like that. Like we left open the possibility that Ryan Garcia could catch Devin Haney. Devin Haney's been caught before. Jorge Linares, most famously, Vasily Lomachenko tagged him a few times, but Ryan Garcia going into that fight, interestingly enough, was the rare case where Ryan Garcia has the power and speed advantage over Devin Haney, I felt like, but because Devin Haney's knocked off better competition and was somebody who, you know, better resume, better defensively, you're like, okay, Devin Haney should win this fight, but that's not how it played out at all.
Yeah, and for me, I mentioned in our preview that Ryan Garcia has a puncher's chance. I didn't know he would have a chance like that. I think when we saw him fight, it was a different Ryan Garcia that we saw in the ring. And the one thing that I was questioning before leading up to it was the discipline, because he just seemed undisciplined leading into the fight. And that's the one thing that Devin Haney had. He also had the resume. He also made Regis Prograis look terrible. And now I'm looking back at this fight thinking, what's up with Regis Prograis? Did we overrate Regis Prograis in the 140-pound division? But I feel like we didn't, because he's a former champion. He's a world-class fighter. And that was a performance where Devin Haney just made him look like an amateur. So coming into this fight, I'm thinking, well, Regis is a little bit more proven than Ryan Garcia. But Ryan Garcia comes in, and we talked about how these guys know each other. They fought each other in the amateurs. Devin said that Ryan didn't get much better than the amateurs, but I think he failed to remember that his power probably got stronger from the amateurs. And so going into this fight, I think a lot of people were rocking with Devin. I don't know a lot of people that were rocking with Ryan in this fight, but leading up to it, I mean, the antics were crazy, but now looking back on it, I'm like, well played, Ryan. But just a spectacular performance, the best of his career. And despite the fact of him having one loss, and that was Tank Davis, a fight where he was weight drained, a fight where, people said that he gave up. This was the performance Ryan Garcia needed, because at the end of the day, he proved that he's a boxer. Like, he does all the other stuff outside the ring, the social media. Everyone's been talking about how there's rumors, how he's not going to be in boxing for long. But that fight right there proved that he's a boxer to me. Like, he's been fighting his whole life. So that kind of made it more legitimate for sure that he still is focused on boxing.
He beat a pound for pound top 10 guy, former undisputed champion. Thanks for whoever rang that bell, not answering that. Beat a former top 10 guy, undisputed champion. Devin Haney may actually stay in some pound for pound lists despite this. I don't think he's going to be on my top 10 because of how the loss was. It wasn't very close either. Like in hindsight, like I think 113, 111 is the closest you can reasonably get to. There was one judge that had it 112, 112 even. What did you think about that, about the scorecard piece of this? Because majority decision was mildly surprising to me, but not really considering how you saw the co-main event scored.
Yeah, I had it scored 113, 111 for Ryan Garcia. So someone had it 112 as a draw. Okay, sure. I mean, the thing about it was that Ryan got off to a really good start. He won round one. Then Devin Haney got into a little bit of a rhythm. And the thing about Ryan is we saw him do it in like a little bit, right? Like he would have like these little lulls during the fight where he would go and use the Philly shell and start being defensive and not really throw. And also, he never established a jab in this fight. Ryan actually has a pretty good jab. Where did his jab go? But then he would have like these little, lulls in the fight. And then all of a sudden you see that energy come and he came with the power, he came with the speed, and he was dominating. But throughout the fight, he didn't have a complete fight. In my opinion, he had moments in this fight where you could tell his power was a real thing and he was able to land on Haney. The one thing that I will say is Devin Haney was extremely annoying holding and clenching. And he said in the post-fight show, well, Ryan was holding and clenching. Stop it. Like there was in the 7th round, and let's keep in mind that there are 2 other falls that were called slips, right? But when you're hurt and you get punched in the mouth and you're leaning on a guy and a guy, instead of you leaning on him, he kind of walks a little bit back and he falls on the ground. Like Devin was hurt in the 7th round. He was hurt in the 7th round. And there was one fall that I think was a knockdown that they called a slip. So essentially, I think he got knocked down 4 times.
There were other people that thought he got knocked down 5 times.
Yes.
Because of how many times. I do think a lot of that's on the referee and how it's officiated. Harvey Dock, whose reputation is one of the better officials in boxing. So not going to freaking tear him a new asshole, whatever the case may be. But like with Harvey Dock, he let the clinching go to a point where it was like, hey, man, like there's a lot of clinching here. If you're deducting a point from Ryan, because remember, Ryan did get a point deducted in this fight. That's part of this. If you're deducting a point from Ryan, you should deduct a point from Devin Haney for the excessive holding. And it was very clear that he was just hanging on for dear life. I thought Ryan Garcia really could have stopped him in round 7. Yeah. And to follow up on a comment here, because I actually want to incorporate this, I am PK13. Do y'all think Haney's jaw is really broken in 3 places? It felt like that after the 2nd knockdown, because there was a knockdown in the 1st round that Devin Haney seemed to recover from. And I think Devin Haney swept like the next 4 or 5 rounds after that, 2 through 5 or 2 through 6. I don't remember if I gave Devin Haney round 6.
I gave him 2 through 6, and then Ryan came back and he had a spectacular 7th round.
Right. And it was the Deontay Wilder type of lull where it's like he's clearly looking for the opening to put his opponent on his ass. Ryan Garcia was doing this. After the 2nd knockdown, Devin Haney never fully recovered. He didn't have his legs for 1 or 2 rounds after. And it just looked like, I wonder if that's been a rumor that his jaw is broken. It wouldn't surprise me at all considering how that went.
For post-fight, if you saw his face was swollen and his chin was hanging.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, yeah, he definitely broke his jaw. From that, the way that he was talking, I felt like Devin's jaw was broken. But to get back, it's like, it's kind of, I said there was lulls in Ryan's fight and he didn't fight a complete fight, but maybe that's the game plan in fighting a guy like Haney. Right? Like you don't win every round. You let him get off some rounds, but then you come back with the power and try to finish him off. And I do think in the 7th round as well that he could have finished off Devin Haney. There was just so many other antics that were going on, and the clinching and the holding from Devin Haney, I think, was a bad look. And we need to get to what's next for these guys, and keep the comments coming because we are going to get to all of the comments at once and go through all of them. But I think the biggest question now is, what's next for Ryan Garcia after beating Devin Haney?
He can do whatever he wants is kind of the first thing. Like, this is one of the possibilities we talked about. Like, on the off chance it happened and, there's a world where, hey, if you simulate this fight 10 times, I'm not sure how many times it goes this way. I think there's a couple worlds where Devin Haney still wins by decision. I think there's a couple worlds where Ryan Garcia actually gets a stoppage and knocks out Devin Haney based on what we saw. Ryan Garcia could do whatever he wants at this point. I think he's the A side in whatever his fight is next, outside of a Gervonta Davis rematch, because Gervonta Davis beat him the first time. But I don't think that fight's going to happen, because Ryan Garcia is now saying he's basically a welterweight because he can't drop below 143 pounds. He tried to get to 140, couldn't do it, was 3.2 pounds over. And if that's the case, and he's a welterweight now, I don't think Tank's going to fight at 147 or
Well,
143 for that matter, because
I
Tank
don't
wanted him
think.
to fight at 136 at a catchweight. So
Well, even then, Tank has fought at 140. He fought Mario Barrios, and he said he wasn't comfortable and never went back up to 140. He never went back up to 140 after
which
that
is
fight. So
which
he's
is
never going to
interesting.
do it.
Yeah,
Like he's not going to do it.
which is interesting to me because I think he would do very well in the 140-pound weight class. 147, I could see where that could be not really advantageous because the height, the reach at that point, like you're gonna run into guys who are 6 feet tall, who are just dropping down to 147, like no joke. Yeah,
But I'm actually not mad at Tank for saying that, because it's like you should want to fight in your natural weight class, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, why doesn't Tank want to go to 140 or whatever? It's like, well, if he didn't feel comfortable at 140, even though he beat Mario Barrios, well, then he didn't feel comfortable at 140, right? So if he feels like 135 is his natural weight class, then let him do that and let him be dominant in that weight class. So I'm not necessarily mad at that. I don't think we get that fight, but I do think Ryan Garcia at this point, yeah, he can do anything. And after beating Devin Haney the way that he did, no one's ever made Devin Haney look like this. No one's ever dropped Devin Haney. Devin Haney was supposed to be the king at 140 pounds. We saw what he did at 135. Now, Ryan Garcia, he's on the pound for pound list. He might be 10, but he's on the pound for pound list, because when you take a look at the pound for pound list, there's different attributes that go into it depending on what your criteria is. But not only that, he's bringing in pay-per-views. He's bringing in other boxing fans that aren't even casual boxing fans. They're probably not even boxing fans. He's helping grow the sport. And after this win and the way that he did it, I think I put him on the pound for pound list.
I have to construct my list of present day to see if that's the case. But this is a win that gets you at least, if not in, you're sniffing around that territory. I kind of think he might need to have a good second win after this, but we'll see. But to put a bow on this point, yeah, I think Ryan Garcia, like there would be a lot of money in this rematch, a lot of money in this rematch, especially if they decide to put it in Vegas or California, because both of these guys are West Coast dudes. Like I won fights at Barclays Center, I won fights at Madison Square Garden, but you brought two West Coast dudes to New York City, and the fight was what it was, and the crowd was very much into it. It was mostly a pro Ryan crowd, which I found very interesting. But ultimately, like I think in a different location, now you can sort of move this around. There'll be a lot of interest and a lot of money in the rematch. And odds wise, I think Ryan Garcia would be a slight favorite now over Devin Haney in a rematch. And then Ryan Garcia, there's talk about Boots Ennis, who's now at Matchroom fighting over the zone. So, Oscar and Eddie could come together and make that sort of happen. If he's going to be a true welterweight now, Boots Ennis is a hell of a way to enter that division. I don't think that's something that he should jump into right away. But if he wants to, and if he wants to take on all comers, so be it.
If he's gonna move up to 147, or fight at a catch weight at like 145 or something like that, there are some really interesting names in the welterweight division. But there's already talk that Boots is gonna fight Bud. There's already rumors that that's in the works. So I don't think he fights a guy like Boots, but I think that would be a very interesting fight. I remember Teofimo Lopez saying that he would move up and fight somebody. I
Mm,
think Teofimo Lopez and Ryan Garcia is a massive fight. You
yes.
got both coasts in those fights. Both these guys know how to sell a fight, and stylistically, the fight would be amazing. Let's get to a few comments, Bryan, before we head into
Hmm.
the Devin
Yeah,
Haney
let's
portion
do
of
it.
all of this. So we're going to show some of these fights here on the screen. So keep the comments coming, you guys. Let's go over to IMPK13, who is a friend of the show. Do y'all think that Team Haney should bring in a world-class trainer for Devin?
I don't like the father son combinations usually in boxing. I feel like there's a ceiling to that. Like you can have guys develop world champions. It's happened all the time. Obviously, Devin and Bill Haney, but many other examples. I do think like it helps to bring in another voice from the outside because it just adds like a more professional dynamic, for lack of a better way of putting it. Like it's hard to get into business with family members. So imagine being a boxer and you're being trained by your father. Like it's just a different level and it makes the relationship a little bit different. So I don't know if it needs to be a world class trainer, but just somebody who can really help Devin Haney, um, particularly with the power punching and sitting in on his punches and figure out a way where he could actually hurt his opponents. Because as good as he is defensively, if he can't hurt his opponents, guys like Isaac Cruz and Subriel Matias are gonna
I
walk through
don't
the
think he
punches.
wants to see Subriel. I don't think Devin should even go close to a guy like Subriel and Matias. Like after the fight that we just saw, because people forget Subriel has skill too. Subriel can take a punch
Yeah,
and he can throw a punch. Like the guy is ridiculous. So
but
I
also
I
the
think he's
thing
the
with
scariest guy in the division. He's the
eh,
scariest guy in
he
the
is
division.
also the other thing is, unlike Isaac Cruz, he's taller and longer, and he he doesn't have lulls like Ryan Garcia, where he'll give you some rounds and then he'll have the explosiveness. Like, no, Subriel's just in your face from the
Yeah.
opening bell. He doesn't give a shit.
No, and
So
you hear the punches, like you hear the jabs, you hear the hooks, and he's a great body puncher. He can hurt you in many different ways. Scariest guy in the division. Let's get to some more comments. Let's go to a friend of the show, Ace underscore 317. The problem with Haney was how he was throwing his jabs and how he wasn't holding the phone when throwing the jab. Horrible game plan. You know what? I thought Devin got into a little bit of a rhythm after he got shook the first round, but he couldn't hurt Ryan.
yeah, Ace was making this point where basically like Devin's throwing his jab, but his hand is not really, it's low. So Ryan, and you see it in one of the knockdowns where Devin Haney's overextending, and his hand is low. For audio listeners, my hand is like a fist below my chin. And then he just gets tagged in the face because his hand is not anywhere near his face. Um, and he's not really covering, which is a defensive lapse from Devin Haney that you don't see very often. But again, trying to overextend in that spot got him caught because he didn't account for Ryan Garcia's speed correctly. So I think with Devin Haney, he needs to clean that up as one. That's something that's funny, Shantelle. Like people will get on Ryan Garcia for that because that's ultimately what put him down against Gervonta Davis was the lack of defense in certain spots where, okay, if your hands down, Gervonta Davis is going to figure that out. And he doesn't get enough credit for his ring IQ. Gervonta Davis
Yo,
does.
he's skilled too. I do want to say that going back to that point from Ace underscore 317, which by the way, thank you for dropping a comment. I also think Devin Haney didn't fight like Devin Haney. Like his jab wasn't really the same. And I think he was looking for a big punch. And it's like, when does Devin Haney fight like that? Devin Haney was also looking for a big punch at times. He was looking for the timing. And I'm like, this is not how Devin Haney fights. So I don't think Devin Haney fought his regular fight. You know what I mean? Like he was fighting a little bit different in this fight. So that was something that I kind of noticed.
Afro Soul drops an interesting question here. He had another one that I want to get to, but I'm not with the firing of Bill though. We got to stop with the doom and gloom knee jerk reactions whenever a top guy loses a fight. I agree. I
Yeah.
don't think you don't fire Bill Haney, but bringing in another voice into training camp, I think there would be some sort of beneficiary in that world. I don't think you need to fire him though. This is not a case where like there have been other boxers where it's like, bro, like you have to get away from your pops. This is not that necessarily. Some people may argue that because they're tired of Bill Haney, but
If I'm honest, I like the Bill and Haney collab. Like
yeah,
I like
yeah.
Bill for Haney and it works for them. I think this was just one fight that Devin lost, and we're gonna get into the Devin portion, so I'll probably say this again. It doesn't make him less of a fighter. Like we have to stop saying that guys got to have O's to be great. Not everyone is Mayweather. And let's remember Mayweather was Pretty Boy Floyd at one time. He could hurt you. Little bit different from Devin Haney. Let's go back to this comment right here. Afro Soul. I've never seen a guy win a fight so empathetically against a fighter of Devin's caliber while making so many mistakes
Emphatic.
and mostly just fighting in spurts. That fight was insane. But okay, so this is what we were talking about, Afro Soul. He didn't have a complete fight, but maybe that was the game plan to fight against Haney. Like have those little spurts, right? Where you're going to give him power and speed and shake him, but let Haney get off those rounds because Ryan's not going to outbox Devin Haney. Like skill wise, they're at different levels, but in this fight, he did what he had to do and he had the perfect game plan, in my opinion.
The closest thing to me was when we thought Deontay Wilder knocked out Tyson Fury multiple times, but that was the closest thing to me where he just catches him after these lulls and the fight was very close. And yeah, that's the other example of this. I never thought I would compare Devin Haney to Tyson Fury, but here we are. Okay. We have other comments here that we have to get to, a lot of them too. Gerard,
I just
if
saw a
you
really
have
funny comment, but yeah.
we'll get to it. Gerard, if you have Ryan on your pound for pound list and you got to have Tank above him.
I do. I
She
do.
is. Yeah.
I,
We
ta-
both
I
Tank is on both of our pound for pound lists.
Yeah, I think I had Tank 7 or 8 last time, but to me, he's the best lightweight. And I always get
Yeah.
heat for that. He's the best lightweight to me. He's got skill, and he's got power. And people sleep on Tank's skill. He's so deceptive. The way that he reels you in, he doesn't get enough credit. So yeah, Tank's definitely on my pound for pound list.
Mine too. Yeah. We both. I think we both might have had Devin above Tank, or you might
I
have
had Devin. I had Devin in my top 5.
Yeah, I had him. I had Devin like right. I don't remember where exactly. We have to do it
I
again,
think
basically.
you can go back on our YouTube page and
Yeah.
we had our top 10 fighters list. We did the pound for pound list. I believe you had Devin just under. You had him like 6.
7 or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I had Devin top 5. So when I'm saying Ryan just snuck into my top 10 list, it's because I had Devin ranked really high on my pound for pound list. So I would be a fool and I would be lying sitting here being like, oh, Ryan's not in my pound for pound list. If he just like annihilated Devin Haney, possibly broke his jaw, dropped him 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, whatever you want to say, I would be lying if I said he wasn't on my pound for pound list after that performance, because I had Devin that high. Let's get to some more comments here.
Dark Matter. Ryan fought in spurts because conditioning wasn't at his best. He even admitted this post fight. Yes, because he said he was drinking every day of camp.
and that he still won. And he was going out. But you know what? Could you imagine? And Michaela Mayer actually tweeted this. She was like, imagine if Ryan had like a jab that was consistent and he had his conditioning. Like, could you imagine what he would have did in that fight if he did that drinking and going out?
You can't have everything, you know?
Yeah, there was
even Floyd Mayweather at some point, he stopped knocking dudes out. He kept breaking his hands and he was like, all right, like I gotta change up how I do things a little bit. He couldn't fight the way he fought Diego Corrales his entire career, you know.
So I was watching the Oscar De La Hoya interview on the Breakfast Club, and DJ Envy was like, yeah, I saw Ryan Garcia out for dinner last night. Like, Ryan was just doing whatever he wanted, right? Like he was just having fun, and he still beat Devin Haney, the most disciplined fighter of all time. And I'm not gonna lie to you, like, everyone's like, he should be more humble. Like, I would be petty too if everyone was saying all those things about me. And I just took down, like, you know, an undisputed champ at 135, a guy that, you know, was supposed to be the king at 140. Let's get to more comments.
Devin Haney was minus 1100, bro.
Yeah.
Like minus 1100.
And Hustleman, a friend of the show, says Haney should have just boxed and hugged Ryan all night. I was so annoyed. Like, I've never been more annoyed watching Devin Haney fight. And usually I'm like, yo, his performance is beautiful. But I felt like he fought scared and he was just trying to survive. And the clenching was so annoying. I never want to see Devin Haney clench like that ever again. Or he's just not going to be fun to watch.
He was way more confident in himself, it appeared, the first half of the fight. Once he caught that second knockdown, we saw a different Devin Haney. And I gave Ryan most of rounds 7 through 12. I probably gave him all but like 1 or 2.
Let's go to Big Surg here. This one's pretty easy because Bryan works at Action. I used to work at FanDuel, so did he. But I tried to bet $100 on Ryan before the fight, and I didn't know I couldn't bet in California. Why are there betting apps if you can't use them? I could have been $900 richer. So California had a vote last year, I believe in like November, to make gambling legal, and most of the state, I think it was like 90% voted no. Don't quote me, but it was like it was terrible. Like, they were like no to betting. So the app is available, but you're not allowed to bet because essentially it's not legal, which is crazy. So if you live in Cali, maybe vote yes next time.
Prize Picks has done some of this too, where like they kind of had to deregulate and they basically had to like pivot how they do things and make their app free to play instead of like a $5 minimum buy-in or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it depends on state rules, honestly. That's why some people still use offshores. Don't quote me on that though. Gerard, yes. Shantelle, as we established, we both have Tank on our pound for pound list. And I think we both at this point have Tank as the best lightweight in the world because Devin Haney, 1, moved up, and 2, now he got this loss because there was rumors about him potentially moving back and forth, but I thought that was out the window before the Regis Prograis fight anyway. So
Yes. Let's go to Jesus.
Ring Magazine still has Vasily Lomachenko #1 at lightweight though, which I didn't understand.
Yeah. But it's Loma, right? So Ryan better DQ for the next ass roll he does. No excuses, no warnings. I mean, Jesus is always bringing the heat for the comments.
Philly
Let's
show.
let's get into the Devin Haney portion of this, Brian, because I feel like that's extremely important. After being beat like this by Ryan Garcia, what's next for Devin Haney?
I think the best thing Devin Haney could do is pursue a rematch and just something to help that chin out. Like, I don't know what it is, but I think the most realistic thing Devin Haney should pursue is like he was talking about having a rematch for the actual title, but if Ryan Garcia is saying he can't make the weight, then I think at that point we might not get the rematch, because if Ryan Garcia can't make the weight, and if Devin Haney wants to stay and potentially unify at 140, and he's still the WBC champion, by the way, because he didn't lose the title because Ryan Garcia didn't make weight, then okay, I think Devin Haney just has to try to defend his title, but he needs a bounce back performance in a bad way, because if you do want to unify, Isaac Cruz, Subriel Matias, and Teofimo Lopez are the other champions. Following this performance, I think all of those dudes will probably be favored in a fight with Devin Haney. Isaac Cruz, I'm not as sure about, but he has a lot of fans that will bet on him that I think that'll be the case. And Subriel Matias, I wonder how much respect he'd get on the sports books, because not a lot of people, in terms of casual bettors, casual boxing people, like, are that aware of him yet, the way like people watching this and we are. But I think the smart bettors will like, oh, we're taking Subriel Matias to knock out Devin Haney, and then that'll shift. So there's a world. I never thought I'd say this, because Devin Haney looked like clearly the best of this group in terms of the champions at 140. But now I think there's a world where the other dudes are looking at him like he's food, which is crazy.
Yeah, and I do want to get to this part, and I mentioned this earlier about guys having the O, and I don't think it's that important. The fact that these guys are getting into the ring and fighting the best, that's what I want to see in boxing, because for a minute, I think we stepped away from that in boxing. So these guys are putting their O's on the line, and for Devin Haney, I think he's still a threat in this division. He's still top 5 in this division. Like, let's be serious here. Just because he took this one loss, had a bad performance, doesn't change what he's done and what we've seen from him. Stylistically, not a good matchup. But if I'm gonna put him against other guys, and I'm still looking at Regis like, what happened? I'm being honest. I'm looking at Regis like, what happened? Because going into this, if I had to pick before that fight with Regis and Ryan, who's the better fighter, I would have said Regis Prograis without a doubt. And then Devin Haney did that to Regis Prograis, and I'm like shook after seeing what Ryan did to Devin Haney. So that makes me question things. But I think the money fight, if he wants to put his title on the line, if he wants to go for another money fight, which I don't know if you do. I don't know if you want another tune-up after Ryan and then having like a massive fight. Devin Haney wants all the smoke, though. I think it's Teofimo Lopez. I think that's a tough fight for Devin as well. But like, because I don't want to fight Subriel Matias if I'm Devin Haney. No way. There's no way I'm fighting Subriel Matias. I'm not even looking his way. Anytime I see a Puerto Rico flag, I'm turning away. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not doing it if I'm Devin Haney. You know what I mean? But I think Isaac Cruz would be his best option. Because I hate to say
the biggest risk. Subriel's the biggest risk in that division right now.
I hate to say it, because I know people are going to get on me. And I like Isaac Cruz. I do. I like his style of fighting. Anyone that watches the show knows I love Mexican style boxing. But I would say he's the weakest of the champions. I would say. Would you disagree, Brian? Like, not the weakest of the champions. You got Teofimo Lopez. You got Subriel Matias. Take down that Puerto Rico flag. It's scary. Okay? It's scary to Devin Haney boxing fans, Brian. And then you got Isaac Cruz. Like, I would still rank Devin Haney over Isaac Cruz.
I think I probably would too. Because here's the thing. Ryan Garcia actually has height and reach. Isaac Cruz doesn't to that extent. So Devin Haney could actually keep a safe level of distance from him if he's able to avoid those punches. The problem is if Isaac Cruz closes the gap, it could be night for Devin Haney within a few rounds. Based on what we saw in the Ryan Garcia fight. Maybe his jaw doesn't get broken. Maybe his jaw stays intact, and it's not the case. But we saw it against Gio Cabrera that Isaac Cruz struggled cutting off the ring, struggled with movement. He struggled cutting off the ring against Rolly. He just kept pounding Rolly to the point where, Rolly had to fold at some point. Subriel Matias is more problematic because he has height and reach. And he also doesn't give a shit where he is, inside or outside. Like, it doesn't matter. He doesn't give a fuck.
And he'll take a hit. He'll take a punch.
Right. And he'll take a gamble. He has a chin. He's in your face. Like, he's ridiculous. And then Teofimo Lopez, I think he has everything. It's just a matter of up here, how much is he focused? But he has everything. Jermaine Ortiz gets blamed for not wanting to engage in that fight, and that's why the fight was the way it was. We've seen this with Teofimo Lopez a couple different times against Sandor Martin also. So
he's a tricky fighter, though. Sandor Martin is a really good tricky fighter. And
by the way, speaking of, that was supposed to be Devin Haney's next opponent after this, reportedly, because they were supposedly working on that fight next because he's supposed to be the mandatory for that title. So maybe that's the answer. And boy, if y'all were pissed off about Shakur Stevenson versus Edwin De Los Santos and Teofimo Lopez versus Jermaine Ortiz, Devin Haney versus Sandor Martin, I think, could be a great tactical boxing match. But for casual fans who are just tuning in to see what Devin Haney does next, that shit could be a snoozer. I'm warning you right now.
And I mean, we kind of saw a fight where Arnold Barbosa Jr. didn't look very good either in the 140-pound division against a guy who he was supposed to be, but a tricky fighter in Macomb. So, there are lots of questions at 140 pounds, but what's next for Devin Haney after losing to Ryan Garcia? I think he has to get back in the ring and ask for that rematch. And if he doesn't get that rematch, I think fighting a guy like Sandor Martin would be good before fighting a guy like Teofimo Lopez, because that would be the money fight to make. You're not going to bring in so many viewers for Devin Haney and Sandor Martin. However, Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney, that's a banger. Does Devin want to take that fight if Ryan doesn't want to do the rematch? It's a tough fight. Very tough fight.
Let's get to some comments. We have some good ones here. Afro So Barbosa lost. He won 2 rounds max. Yeah, I had him winning 2, maybe 3 tops.
I gave him 3.
We had Arnold on the show. We like him very much. I thought he was underrated going into that fight. That was a tough one. We'll see what he does in his next fight, but he's also 30-0 and is like in his early 30s. So if he's gonna get a title shot, it kind of has to be now. But I know some people are gonna dock him for that last performance. I think actually he might. He's somebody who could see one of these champions at some point next.
He wants to, and there is the back and forth between the dads as well. And Arnold tweeted yesterday, and I'm a big fan of Arnold, so I didn't like that performance, but they gave him the victory. And he was saying that he's gonna prove everyone wrong like Ryan did. Everyone that's talking smack. So listen, you're only as good as your last fight, but I would love to see it. I would love to see Arnold get a title shot, but not the best performance. Let's go to Ryan, who's been on the show before. Ryan, thanks for joining us. This is a hot take. Devin Haney's career is over. Ryan, oh my goodness, tell us why. Tell us why you think it's over.
All right, Ryan Hong says Devin Haney's career is over. I will say this. This is an interesting point you bring up, because it's something I said in a video I did on my own YouTube, and I'm going to say here as well. I'm very concerned for Devin Haney's future if this is his chin, because if dudes like Ryan Garcia are figuring out Devin Haney can't hurt me, and again, in his weight class, so Real Matias, Isaac Cruz, these are champions. And if he's going to unify, he has to fight them. If those dudes can get to Devin Haney, then Devin Haney might be put on his ass more. If what we saw against Ryan Garcia is who he's going to be from a chin perspective.
I do think, though, that Devin comes back a different fighter. I don't think we'll see that exact same performance. Barbosa got beat by a journeyman. I mean, Izzy, though, he had one loss. He was a Euro level fighter. That's what I'll say. Okay, a Euro level fighter, and Barbosa was supposed to whoop him, but essentially, stylistically, it wasn't a good matchup.
Barbosa also, by the way, was like a minus 1100 ish favorite, minus 1,000, like he big money. Literally Euro level fighter because he was the European champion
Yeah.
going into that fight. So Sean McComb, there you go.
Let's go to Afro Soul really quick. Because Ryan, you gotta explain to us why you think Devin's career is over. Ryan, don't be casual. A top guy takes one loss and he's done. I'm low-key happy though, but Bill can be quiet now to say that
Yeah.
in a nicer way.
A lot of people are
Um,
annoyed by Bill. Let's
yeah.
actually get to this one, Hustle Man, because Shakur's been brought up in the chat. Shakur is at 135 firmly at this point, but we both said in the past, and we actually asked Tiger Johnson about this. Do you think Shakur Stevenson could be a welterweight? He said yeah, and he said quote Manny Pacquiao was 5'4". Why not? So there you go.
Yeah.
Hustle Man can't be mad at Shakur now. Because how he fought Nakataya and Santos is how Haney should have fought after getting hurt the first round.
Probably, but I mean, he was holding so goddamn much and clenching so goddamn much. It was Devin Haney not only had a terrible performance, but he put on a whack performance,
Yeah,
like a late.
Shakur doesn't hold as much as that
No, and
either.
I think Shakur
He
actually
doesn't throw a lot.
he's gonna grow into his body. Like you take a look at Shakur's body, and he's definitely gonna be a welterweight. Before when I used to think about Shakur and Devin Haney fighting, I would kind of lean to Devin. I don't know anymore. I need to see more from Shakur, and I want to see him fight some top guys. Let's
he's
get to some final
reportedly
comments.
he's
Yeah.
reportedly coming back in July, I believe it is, in New Jersey. So
Oh, so he
there
didn't retire. Okay.
Shakur Stevenson. There are people that think that he can beat all these dudes. As Afro Soul says in the comments, I think the best lightweights are Shakur, Gervonta
Tank,
Davis. Yeah, those are the best two. Tank is probably first right now, but whatever. Like I want them to fight each other. Lomachenko too. Lomachenko's still
of
there, but
course.
I would favor both of those guys over Lomachenko at this point.
And I'm happy Loma's going down to take on Cambosos because I think I know how that fight's gonna go. And I think Loma needs it. I'm just saying I don't want to see Loma take another loss. I don't want to see that. Any final comments, Bryan, that you want to get to?
Yes, IMPK. What do y'all make of the WBC letting Haney keep the belt? I mean, rules are rules. If you
I thought he
lose,
would have to vacate it at first.
not for the WBC.
Yeah.
But in some cases that has been so. Personally, I would have. I think in general, boxing needs more tournaments. Like we should have more tournaments when there's a vacant title instead of just making the top two guys fight it. Just make it a
But
tournament.
also now it's like you're not really the champ, Devin.
That's
Stop it. You're
the
not really
thing.
the champ now.
I
And
don't
it's
want to
like
overreact to again. You make this point all the time. It's a great point. All of our favorite fighters have losses. Felix Trinidad is one of my guys. Miguel Cotto, Roy Jones Jr. You love Oscar De La
Oscar De La
Hoya.
Hoya. Yeah.
Like all these dudes, all the greats. Bernard Hopkins, James Toney. Go back to Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier. All these dudes have losses.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, except for Floyd Mayweather
And Andre Ward for me.
and Andre Ward. And some people would say Floyd Mayweather should have lost to Jorge Luis Castillo, maybe the Maidana fight. I disagree with that one in particular. Andre Ward, some people think Kovalev got him the first time. You know what I mean? Like, so regardless, guys lose. How he bounces back is important. That sounded mad corny, but it's true. So that's where we're at with that. Let's take a couple more before we get out of here, Shantelle. Because we're already nearing 40 and
yes,
we always go longer than we expect because you guys are awesome and leave great comments. So there we go. Let's see what we have here. There was some from earlier of the show that I wanted to get to.
Afro Soul, we were cool until you hit me with this comment right here. Okay. Yeah. I'm like a massive Andre Ward fan. He's from Oakland, so obviously. But
I miss HBO. God, I miss HBO. They cover that
HBO boxing. Yes. I'm trying to take a look at some earlier comments here.
Let me see. I think we got to all of them. Does anyone want to give us a great one out the door? I'll take a hot take coming out the door. Let's see. I don't think we're gonna do in terms of a programming note. I don't think we may do betting this week, but we have Jose Ramirez, Francis Barthelemy, Virgil Ortiz, Thomas Delorme. So 2 fights where we can kind of have an idea of how they'll go. Although I don't think I don't think Ramirez is in a gimme fight at all. I think Barthélemy is actually
That's
interesting.
a tough fight for Jose, but this is a chance for Jose to prove that he's arguably still top 5
But
in the division.
Next week, Canelo Alvarez, and a couple days after
Jaime
that,
Munguia.
yes.
We're gonna see Inoue and Neri fight. So we're gonna be doing some post-fight shows, even if it's 4 in the morning on the West Coast. Jesus, am I gonna be going to some boxing fights? I'm gonna try to. I really want Jose Ramirez and Arnold Barbosa Jr. to fight in Fresno. So that would be a fight I would want to go to.
Still, do you still want that fight?
I do, and I'm thinking about going to the Bam Rodriguez and El Gallo fight in Arizona as well, which is at the end of the month in June. So I'm thinking about going to that one because it's West Coast close, right? So
we'll see, but I may go to Xander Zayas. It's going to main event June 10th at MSG Theater. And you already know, so like, you know, I got
hide the flag. It's too scary. There's too many scary Puerto Rican fighters. Superreal being one of them, but
one or two more we'll get at it. Ace 317 hot take. Tail beats Pitbull and Matthias, but loses to Ryan. Whoa. I gotta think about this one. I don't know about that. I think Tail beats Pitbull. Superreal.
Maybe. I think that's.
I don't think Superreal's unbeatable. I don't. Yeah. But like
stylistically, that's a good fight. But
Sandor Martin dropped Teofimo Lopez. You know what I'm saying?
Teo's chin is a little bit sus too, but he's also recovered though. Like Teo's been dropped, recovered, and won a fight, right? So
George Kambosos got him too.
That's true, but he didn't prepare for that fight. He came in like, yo, I'm gonna knock this guy out. Like he did the Ryan, but didn't get the victory. That's what Teo did, right? I think Ryan and Teo is a massive fight for sure. Let's go over to Ryan really quickly because Ryan's had some good comments. I want to get to this one right here.
Munguia's getting stopped.
There's questions. There's so many questions about if Munguia can get it done against Canelo because some people think Canelo's on the slide. You know what I mean? And Munguia had a great performance against John Ryder. And John Ryder and Canelo went the distance. And I hate that because I kept on saying, yo, Canelo's going to get John Ryder in a stoppage. And, then I think we overhyped John Ryder. But I still think Canelo wins that. think Canelo wins that. And there's also talk about Berlanga fighting Canelo as well.
The mandatory. Oh, Edgar Berlanga's not ready for Canelo yet.
No.
But Canelo Alvarez, we'll see how he does against Jaime Munguia. Could be aging. He hasn't gotten a knockout since Caleb Plant in late 2021. So it's been a while, Canelo Alvarez. Thought you were going to knock out John Ryder, especially when we saw the size of the ring being small. But yeah, we'll see. I do think Canelo should win that fight. But, man, I keep saying the longer we wait, if David Benavidez versus Canelo doesn't happen, one, it's a failure. Two, I think David Benavidez would win that fight at this point. So
at this stage in his career as well, it would be hard not to place money on him. And I still think Canelo would be the favorite because the odds makers would make it that way. Mm-hmm. But here at The Mandatory, we want to thank you guys so much for rocking out with us. Remember, donations are always we're really grateful if you do make a donation, and we always go to your comments, but it also helps the show grow. So if you like the content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, follow us on our social media channels at The Mandatory TKO. And Bryan, I'll let you have the last words before we get up and out of here.
If you want more lives, let us know. And also donate to the channel so we can continue to do this as often as you'd like. Take care.